work, but we're going to bring in Dennis Kelly now. Dennis, I think you're unmuted, but I don't see you yet. That's a great picture, though. There you are. Oh, wait, we got another awesome hairdos. Sorry, Smiles, but there we go. There we go. Right, brother?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Love it. Love it.
That picture was from 1996 when I spoke on Capitol Hill. So, so nice to meet
Fantastic.
you. Thanks for allowing me to be part of this movement and the Smileathon. I'm a rookie.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about your story. Obviously, you're making Smiles happen, and otherwise you wouldn't be here. So, introduce everybody to Dennis Kelly.
Yeah, thank you for the time. Yeah, so I am a entrepreneur in the healthcare space.
Hmm,
I'm an engineer. My first job out of college was taking apart the Three Mile Island nuclear reactor after the accident. And so that was a pretty
really?
unique experience. That was in 1980. And I had a son that was born deaf in 84 and caused me to rethink my career a little bit. I was
Mm,
not going to wait around for the next nuclear accident. And so I found myself in the insurance industry and with an engineering background in the insurance industry, found myself creating policies and techniques and analysis that allows me to, uncover hidden assets and hidden expenses that the insurance world has built into the insurance policies. So I have two businesses that deal in that technology. But this morning I wanted to share, the second part. Um, I live a life of belief and faith in God and scripture, and so many of the things that I do are based on scriptural insights. And today I want to talk a little bit about the kingdom economy versus, God's economy. And if you allow me to expand a little bit, um, am I allowed to, can I share my screen? Yep.
I think so. There's somebody else with the controls. Have you hit the share screen on the bottom? If not, I know we
Yeah,
got several incredible staff members and support. There you are. It's just beginning to share,
I think it's the wrong,
and
I grabbed the wrong file, sorry.
that's all right.
Here we go.
Technology.
Exactly. So, um, in my
There we go.
in our process in the insurance industry, the insurance industry is very recondite, meaning that it's complex and usually too complex for one of ordinary understanding to be able to, capture. Um, Milton Friedman, wrote many books on the economy in terms of the two chief enemies of the free society is, business and, well, sorry about that. This ain't gonna work. All right, let's just go.
If you can see it, you can read it. I mean, because
Yeah,
full
exactly.
full disclosure, when I did that little, I don't know if you're around when I did a song, I was looking at the screen and reading it because I didn't have Bobby McLaren memorized. So just roll with it, brother. You're doing great.
All right, great. Let's see. So Milton Friedman wrote, he got his Nobel Peace Prize on, the study of economics and entrepreneurism. And, I'm sorry, this is crazy. I'm not used to the public forum. Anyway, the two the two chief enemies of a free society and a free enterprise are intellectuals on one hand and businessmen on others for opposite reasons. Every intellectual believes in freedom of himself and he opposes the freedom of others. An intellectual thinks that there ought to be a central planning board that will establish social priorities. The business person are just the opposite. Every businessman is in favor of freedom of everybody else, but when it comes to himself, he's different question. He always wants special cases and ought to have special privileges. So when you think about that, basically in the world economy that Milton Friedman wrote about, where it's a buying and selling economy. And one of the things I've
Mhm.
learned about scripture is that, the Lord has created this world for us to be in a giving and receiving economy. And that's what when I was with Ken the other day, that's what reminded me of, that's what smiles are.
Mhm.
Smiles are a giving and receiving economy. If you
Mhm.
can, when you share a smile, you immediately make a connection with a person. Whereas in earthbound economics, the the world runs um, on the process of buying and selling. Everybody's buying and selling, buying and selling. In a buying and selling economy, the the currency is money, and the process is transactions, and everybody's being clever, and everybody's trying to be faster and faster. So, in economy, in the kingdom economy, the way it was created by our Creator, I believe it's based on giving and receiving versus buying and selling. In a giving
Mhm.
and receiving economy, the currency is relationships. What we're doing here. Ken and I haven't seen each other probably for, 10 or 15 years. I don't even know what it was, but it was an immediate connection. It was like we didn't have any time apart when we were together this week. And so in a giving and receiving economy where relationships are the currency, relationships are made more valuable and more productive by the three things you can only spend: love, time, and truth. And there's no better symbol of love except a smile. I mean, if you truly connect with somebody in a smile, you're immediately the ability to trust, the ability to have a good feeling that the things that go on, the chemicals that go on in your brain are triggered by, a smile. A smile connected to the right, eye contact is immediately noticeable. And so when you think about an economy that's on giving and receiving, and love, time, and truth are the three things you can only spend that you can't buy. And scripture teaches us those three things are unlimited. There's no restriction. The more you use them, the better the economy works. So, in terms of the world economy and a buy and sell economy, it's money, transactions, cleverness, speed. These things wear people down. Okay. In the world economy, I spend my money on myself. I care what I spend and I care what I get.
Mhm.
If I spend my money on somebody else, that's like the church, I give some money away. I care about how much I give away. I don't care about what they do with it. I sort of trust they're going to do the right
Right.
thing with it.
Mhm.
In the next level, if I spend someone else's money on me, I don't care what they spent, I care what I get. And Milton Friedman said this is the first level of government services. So if I take my child to the bus stop in the morning and I give it to the bus driver, I want you to leave on time, I want you to have them home on time, I want you to keep them safe during the day, I don't care what it costs you. And if somebody else is spending somebody else's money on somebody else, they don't care what they spend and they don't care what they get. So in the world economy, Milton Friedman basically said in those four levels, there's a predictable 40% difference in the value of the money and the commodity. If you take a commodity like an apple costs 40% more in that last level. Oh, by the way, that last level where somebody else is spending somebody else's money on somebody else, that's welfare and government service.
Mm.
Okay.
Right.
And the apples cost 40% more because they don't care what they spend, it's somebody else's money. The, what's different about the kingdom economy is when I first learned that there's another principle in society that might be behind some of this stuff, I'm doing my business my way. And so I just, every day to day, I come in, I go to work, I do some things. When I first learned that there might be this principle behind what I'm doing, is I start using some of the principles that are in scripture. And so I start doing my business his way. And when I
Mm.
do my business his way, there's a different energy. So lately, I've been talking about, we're going to have an energy dominant society. I believe this new administration is going to bring new energy into the country, not the energy that people think like gas and oil and things like that. I'm talking about the human energy. And right now, the time I spent, this time with Ken this week, we're at the tip of the spear. Smiles are the key to an energy that can't be stopped. Okay. So if I'm doing my business, I'm using scriptural principles. I talk about the ifs and whens. If you just read the Bible enough to know that if I say this, people will say this. If I act this way, people act this way, right? It it energizes my smiles. People come into my business and they say, "Hey, there's something different going on here. What is it?" I don't even know what it is yet. But if I do it long enough, I get to a point where I start doing my business. I mean, I start doing his business my way. And I wake up one day and say, wait a second, this isn't my business. I'm gonna live for eternity, you know, but I only have a short time on this earth. And this is his business, so I should run, and he's given me power of attorney to run it for him, so I should run it his way. When I first learned that, I get real proud and I get, prideful and, I stand on my soapbox and I take bigger risks because it's not my business anymore. I'm doing it for him. So I take bigger steps. And eventually I have a big problem. Eventually a business fails. In my case, I lost a $12 million business, not because of Christian principles, just because I was, maybe getting ahead of myself. And I fell into, somebody else's problem and I couldn't control it because I didn't have the margins. Bottom line is that was when I had the biggest growth in the understanding of a kingdom economy, because once you have that failure, it really presses your faith. It's like, do I really believe what I believe? How could you do this to your business? I'm running this business for you. Taking over the society. We're building this product. How could you do this to your business? And that's when I really learned the final level of a kingdom economy, when I start doing his business his way. When I start
Mm.
doing his business his way, that's when miracles show up. That's when you don't understand things like responding to a text at 4 in the morning to a guy you haven't talked to in 10 years. And so I'm looking at the
That-
clock. It's probably right around the time I'm supposed to, stop talking for a while. But um, in in my business world, you might know me as a nice guy. You might see me as a smart guy because I know a lot about insurance and I can look at a company's insurance contract and I can promise them that they are overspending by $1,000 to $3,000 per employee per year. So when I'm out there in the world selling affordable health care, I'm creating money. You're spending
Mhm.
$1 million a year on your insurance for your employees. And I show up a couple of days later and I say you're overspending by $400,000. And literally that money is negotiated and plan design out of the process within, a couple of days. It could be implemented with a couple of months. The biggest problem I deal with is too good to be true. And so I believe that as I learn how to smile more and learn how to let
Mhm.
go of the outcome and not worry so much about the money and care more about the healthcare and just stay grounded on, why did God put me here? What am I going to do about it? So Ken is ignited. One of the things I want to do today is I really want to work with people that believe what I believe and not in the scripture. And that's just an operating principle. But
Yeah.
healthcare can be more affordable and it can be fun and it doesn't have to be so recondite.
Yeah, what I'm getting from you is, well, I mean, there's so many great nuggets throughout that whole thing. And I liked how you shifted, from Milton to, the kingdom economy. That was phenomenal. But the other thing that I really got from you is that I feel from you, it's service. How can I serve you? How can I help you? Um, and so, but I want you to be self-serving for a little bit because we've got about a minute left before our next Smileathon smiles. How people can connect with you, how because your words and your wisdom should be shared, as well as your smile and that beautiful hairdo.
Exactly. I got my hairdo for Ken's new book coming out, big bold something.
Yeah, you and
But
me
yeah,
both. Yeah.
it's Dennis Kelly. The
Mhm.
name of my company is Incenta, INCENTA.net. Um,
Okay.
my email address is dennis.kelly@incenta.net, INCENTA.net.
Perfect.